Many still believe peace means only silence around you, perfect vacations, an abundance of money, or a life free of demands. But life shows us the opposite. You can have all of that and still feel like your mind never turns off. Your body rests. The environment seems calm. But inside there is a constant turmoil where every thought explodes into feelings that never stop growing. It is here that the illusion collapses. Peace is not a setting, it is a structure. It does not arise from circumstances, it arises from the silent strength you carry within. And no true strength collapses all at once. It crumbles through small cracks, a worry that persists, a word left unresolved, a tension that settles without permission, until the truth becomes undeniable. It is not the world that pulls you from your center, it is your mind when it loses direction and vigilance. The good news? It can be reversed. With real attitudes, simple yet profound Stoic habits, habits that shield your calm, organize your thoughts, and restore control over your life, you can rebuild your inner peace. Today I will show you 10 of these habits, designed to restore your inner peace and sustain your presence, not only on good days, but especially on the hardest ones. And the first one begins now, with a non-negotiable decision. Your peace is not a favor from anyone. It is cultivated every single day. You do not beg for tranquility. You train your mind to hold it. Write in the comments, "Today, I become imperturbable. I am stoic." When this awareness awakens, the same problems shrink, and you grow. Before we begin, please leave your like and subscribe to the channel, so this message reaches those who need it most. Now, let's begin with the first habit. 1. Never say more than necessary. Often, it's not your enemy who exposes you, it's your own mouth. People believe that speaking a lot is a sign of intelligence, when in reality it is almost always a sign of nervousness. Think of a meeting. The more someone justifies themselves, the more insecure they appear. Or think of a salesperson. The harder they try to convince you, the clearer it becomes that even they don't believe what they're selling. Excess words do not demonstrate confidence. They hand your insecurity to others on a silver platter. Observe great leaders, teachers, men who truly carry inner weight. They do not rush to answer. They do not feel obligated to justify every detail. They do not waste their energy on petty disputes. On the contrary, they measure each word as if it were gold. Why? Because they know whoever speaks too much becomes predictable, and whoever becomes predictable loses power. The Spartans had this discipline engraved in their souls. Warriors feared for their swords, but respected even more for their silence. They cultivated the art of speaking little and arriving deeply. When Xerxes threatened to cover the sun with arrows, Leonidas replied, "Then we will fight in the shade." A short answer, but one that carried courage, irony, and firmness. No explanations needed, no speeches required, only clarity. They never used 2 words when one sufficed. That was their essence, transforming the minimal into maximum impact. Silence for them was not emptiness. It was strategy, discipline, power. Excess words betray hidden emotions, the anxiety that cannot wait, the fear of being misunderstood, the rage that overflows when silence would be enough. It is like a glass too full. The more it moves, the more it spills. The Stoic understands this truth. They do not need long speeches to impress. They prefer dry clarity, a short phrase that closes the subject, because they know, when words are controlled, they convey more respect than any justification. This is the forgotten discipline. Use every word like a well-aimed arrow, never like uncontrolled gunfire. Whoever speaks too much loses themselves. Whoever says what is essential gains respect. And the greatest power is not in winning by quantity, but in mastering yourself until even silence becomes authority. Do you want to become imperturbable? Then remember, in moments of tension, less is more. Say only what supports your position. Everything else is weakness disguised as explanation. 2. Do not let your emotions override your intelligence. How many times have you made a decision in the heat of anger, only to realize minutes later that you handed your power over to impulse? This is how many become prisoners, not of life, but of their own internal lack of control. Emotion rises like fire, blinding like smoke. And when the heart takes the wheel, intelligence becomes a passenger. The world is full of brilliant people who destroyed their own reputation in seconds. A leader who yells in public, a professional who explodes in front of their team, a parent who loses control and says what they never should have. Intelligence may take years to build respect, but uncontrolled emotion can destroy it all in an instant. The Stoics warned us, no one is free who does not govern himself. Epictetus taught, before reacting, remember, anger and sadness are not orders. They are invitations, and you can refuse them. It's like someone knocking at your door. You hear the knocks, but you decide whether to open or not. If it's a thief, you don't let them in. Anger is exactly like this. It arrives, but it only enters if you turn the lock. Marcus Aurelius, amid wars and betrayals, repeated to himself, "You have power over your mind, not over events." That is the key. When emotion overflows, intelligence must be the wall that contains it. Think of the Spartans in battle. Fear was natural, but never permitted. They trained not only the body, but the mind, because they knew a soldier dominated by panic was more dangerous to his own army than to the enemy. It is the same with us. If you do not learn to contain impulse, you will hurt yourself first, and then everyone around you. You become imperturbable when you transform emotional discipline into your sword, breathing when impulse orders you to attack, remaining silent when rage wants to scream, and remembering, one moment of self-control is worth 1,000 apologies afterward. 3. Lower your expectations of others. How many times have you been disappointed because someone didn't act as you expected? You offered support and received indifference. You were loyal and met distrust. You reached out and were left behind. The pain of disappointment rarely comes from what the other person did, but from what you expected them to do. That is the invisible poison of expectations. We create an idealized version of someone in our minds, and when reality appears, we feel betrayed. But in truth, no one betrayed you. You were the one who believed in a promise that never existed. Marcus Aurelius already said, "Expect people to act according to their nature, not according to your will." And that changes everything. If you understand that every person acts only from the consciousness they possess, from their traumas, fears, and limitations, then you realize demanding perfection is like asking a child to run a marathon. It is unjust, it is illusory, and it is you who exhausts yourself. The truth is, no one acts solely from logic. Every behavior is guided by deep experiences, invisible scars, and emotional roots that shape how someone reacts to life. As Morgan Housel reminds us in The Psychology of Money, no one acts only based on what is happening right now. Every attitude is a reflection of everything they have lived. A simple comment can awaken childhood insecurities. A silence can carry years of fear of rejection. An aggressive reaction may simply be the echo of someone who never learned to be heard. Think of this. You offer respect and receive coldness. At first impulse, you think, it's personal, it's against me. But most of the time, it isn't. It is simply the other person's pain speaking out loud. Who never learned to trust, distrusts. Who never received self-love, cannot give love. Who was always hurt, often hurts to defend themselves. Here is the turning point. When you understand that the other person reacts from their own history, you stop expecting sweet fruit from soil that has not yet been prepared. This is not about accepting everything. It is about freeing yourself from the illusion that people will act as you would. That liberation does not diminish the other, It strengthens you. From today on, do not expect exact reciprocity. Continue acting with integrity, not because others deserve it, but because that is who you are. Maturity is in maintaining your essence without becoming sick, waiting for others to give what they still cannot offer. Stay whole, even if the world around you is still broken. 4. Let your results speak for themselves. One of the greatest enemies of inner peace is the need to prove your worth all the time. We want to be accepted, recognized, valued, and in the anxiety of being seen, we spend more energy talking than doing. We try to impress with promises, justifications, long speeches, but beneath it all, this only reveals the insecurity of someone who still needs external confirmation. This need for validation appears everywhere. Think of a workplace. There's always someone who talks too much about what they're planning, what projects they'll deliver, how important they'll be in the future, but in practice, almost nothing is ever completed. Or on social media, where many announce victories even before they've conquered them, seeking quick applause that vanishes as fast as it appears. The more someone needs to announce, the more they reveal they have not yet built anything. Seneca warned us, "It is not the man who has little who is poor, but the one who desires infinitely more." The same applies to recognition. Whoever constantly needs to announce what they will do, reveal plans, explain, seek approval, reveals they still lack confidence in their own construction. Think of Thomas Edison. He spent years failing before inventing the light bulb. He did not waste time trying to convince the world he was on the right path. While critics spoke, he kept testing. When he finally lit the bulb, he needed no speeches. The result spoke for itself, and to this day, silences every opposing voice. That is the lesson. Words can win fleeting applause, but results build lasting respect. Whoever focuses on talking ends up consumed by the need to prove. Whoever focuses on doing finds freedom, because the result becomes their own voice. Do you want to become imperturbable? Do not use your energy seeking acceptance in words. Use it to build something that speaks for itself, because in the end, no one remembers what you promised, only what you delivered. And the truth is simple. The noise of speech lasts an instant, but the power of example resonates for a lifetime. 5. 10 people, 10 opinions. If you live dependent on the approval of others, you will spend your entire life in debt. Every person who crosses your path has an opinion, and if you try to please them all, you will lose yourself. The same gesture that brings applause today, tomorrow may bring criticism. The same behavior one person praises, another condemns. It is this way because every gaze is filtered through the history of the observer. 10 people, 10 worlds, 10 people, 10 different opinions. If you base your life on this tribunal, you will always be imprisoned, like a slave trying to guess the next verdict. Seneca said, "If you live to please others, you die every time you are criticized." And this remains true today. Think of someone who posts on social media and deletes their post minutes later because they didn't get enough likes, or someone who, at work, stops proposing an idea because they fear what others will say, or that person who, within their own family, never shows what they truly think, afraid of judgment. The constant search for approval transforms even the strongest into invisible hostages. History shows this on a grand scale. Socrates, today considered one of history's greatest philosophers, was condemned to death by the opinion of the majority. If he had shaped his thinking to please them, he would have survived, but at the cost of his truth. He chose to die faithful to what he believed, rather than live imprisoned by the judgment of others. That is the point. If even the greatest were criticized, why do you believe you will be spared? You will never have control over what others think of you, but you will always have control over who you choose to be, despite it all. And that is the greatest human power, maintaining your integrity. even when the entire world points a finger. Do you want to become imperturbable? Then accept this. Criticism and praise are only echoes. Do not base your identity on the fluctuations of the crowd. Do not waste your energy trying to decipher what everyone thinks. Build a solid life, because in the end, what truly matters is not what others said, but who you became. And remember, the world may disagree, but your conscience cannot lie. 6. Remember that your distractions are your followers. Have you noticed that the more attention you give a distraction, the stronger it grows? It's like a hungry dog. If you feed it, it doesn't leave. It returns every day, begging for more. Distractions work the same way. Every time you surrender to them, you train your mind to be dominated by what does not matter. The problem is, we rarely perceive the cost. 5 minutes scrolling your phone becomes half an hour lost. A negative comment occupies your mind for an entire day. A comparison on social media steals weeks of self-esteem. And when you add it all up, you realize it wasn't the world that stole your time, energy, and joy. It was you who gave it away, distraction by distraction. Marcus Aurelius warned, "You always have power over your mind, not over events." If you do not learn to protect that power, you will live at the mercy of notifications, opinions, and stimuli that only seem urgent. And the more you surrender, the more these distractions follow you like shadows. Think of how many times you stopped advancing on something important because you got caught up in what had no relevance. It's like being in the middle of a race and stopping to chat with every person who calls out to you. When you wake up, the finish line is far behind. And the most painful part? Realizing life does not wait. The time you give to distractions never returns. At work, how many times did you leave projects unfinished because you answered every notification? In your studies, how many pages were abandoned because an open tab diverted your focus? Each distraction seems small, but together they form a massive detour, a void in your vital energy. The Stoics trained focus like a weapon. They knew a scattered mind is vulnerable, a trained mind is invincible. Every distraction you reject is another brick in the fortress of your discipline, and this discipline, when well built, is an invisible wealth. No one can steal it, no one can spend it for you. Do you want to become imperturbable? Then consciously choose what deserves your energy. Do not follow every noise. Do not feed every distraction. Remember, everything you cultivate grows. If you cultivate what is essential, you harvest progress. If you cultivate distractions, you harvest emptiness. And in the end, there is only one question that truly matters. Are you spending your life on what is worthwhile, or are you letting distractions remain in control? 7. Do not be afraid to say no. Saying no is like closing your front door at night. It is not rudeness, it is protection. You do not close the door because you hate your neighbors, but because you know not everyone can enter. Your mind, your time, your energy also need this invisible wall. The problem is, driven by the need to please, we leave the door always open. We accept meaningless conversations, useless meetings, tasks that are not ours. Each forced yes is like letting strangers enter and disorder your living room. And when you realize it, you are living in a house that no longer resembles you at all. Epictetus said, "If you want to be respected, begin by respecting yourself." And respect begins right here, in the clear boundary between what enters and what stays outside. Think of something simple, your email inbox or messages. Every time you respond to everything immediately, you teach others that your attention has no filter. But when you learn to say no, even in silence, you create space for what truly matters. History also reminds us of this. Michelangelo, pressured by patrons and powerful figures of his time, rejected jobs that were not aligned with what he believed was his true art. He preferred to endure criticism than waste his life on works that did not reflect his vision. If even the greats had to say no to protect what was essential, Why do you believe you can give yourself to everyone without losing yourself? Do not deceive yourself. Every yes comes at a high cost. It costs hours of sleep, mental peace, physical health, and in the end, you pay the bill alone. The fear of disappointing others becomes a certainty of disappointing yourself. Do you want to become imperturbable? Learn to value no as much as yes, because every no spoken to what distracts you is in reality a yes to your clarity, to your freedom, to the life you want to build. 8. Do not aspire to perfection. The obsession with perfection is a gilded prison. You think you are seeking excellence, but in reality, you are hiding behind a fear disguised as virtue. The perfectionist does not live, they postpone. They do not begin, they wait. They do not create, they revise. And while they try to polish every detail, life continues without asking permission. It is like sculpting a statue and never allowing it to be seen. Every stroke becomes a reason to stop. Every mistake, an excuse to delay. But life does not reward what is hidden. It rewards what is placed into the world, even if it is imperfect. Leonardo da Vinci, one of history's greatest geniuses, left works unfinished. Not because they were perfect, but because he understood. Greatness is not in eliminating every error, but in having the courage to show what already exists within us. True strength is not in finishing without mistakes, but in daring to expose what many bury forever out of fear. And here is the hard truth. You were born with a gift, a talent, a light. Perhaps the world around you does not value it, but that does not make it less. The greatest mistake is hiding it in the name of perfection, waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. Because perfection is not a virtue, it is a mask. It is fear of criticism, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. As Marianne Williamson wrote, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, beautiful, talented, fabulous? In truth, who are you not to be? You are a child of the universe. That is the real dilemma. It is not failure that paralyzes. It is the courage to shine that terrifies. When you shrink yourself to fit in, you are not being humble. You are denying the world what only you can offer. You, thinking small, do not help the world. By hiding, you do not protect anyone. You only imprison yourself. Seneca already warned, while you postpone life, it passes. How many books were never written? How many businesses were never opened? How many words were never spoken because someone waited for the perfect moment? All in the name of an ideal that exists only in imagination. Do you want to become imperturbable? Change perfection for progress. Change demand for courage. Change fear for movement. Because in the end, it is not perfection that transforms your life. It is the discipline of continuing forward, despite the imperfections. 9. Remember that everything is a loan. You do not possess anything definitively, not your health, not your possessions, not even the people you love. Everything is a loan from life, given for a limited time. And the sooner you understand this, the lighter your path becomes. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let this determine what you do, think, and say. Not as an invitation to pessimism, but as a reminder that nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow is not assured. The present is the only true possession. Think of how many times you panicked at losing something, an object, a job, a relationship. The pain felt unbearable because you believed it was yours. But in truth, it was never possession, only transit. The more you cling, the heavier the burden. The more you accept the temporary nature of life, the more you learn to live with gratitude. And here is the turning point. Gratitude is born precisely from the awareness that everything is transient. If life never promised permanence, every moment you receive is a bonus, a gift. The embrace that lasts seconds, the smile that brightens a morning, even your own breath right now, none of it is guaranteed. And because of that, it has infinite value. When you see the world this way, every loss ceases to be only pain and becomes a memory of something that once existed. You stop lamenting the time you will never have and begin thanking for the time you had. Gratitude does not erase absence. It transforms memory into strength, not weakness. This is not coldness. It is awareness. When you know everything is alone, you begin to value what you have now. You listen better. You hug more tightly. You thank more often. The imperturbable is not the one who closes off to avoid feeling, but the one who feels deeply without being chained to the fear of loss. Nothing is possession. Everything is presence. Live in such a way that, if tomorrow it is taken from you, you have no regret, only gratitude for the time you had. 10. Know your truth and accept that no one needs to believe in it. One of the greatest causes of anguish is trying to convince others of what only you can feel. You know what lies within you, but you waste energy trying to prove, explain, justify, as if your truth needed witnesses to exist. But the reality is simple. No one sees the world through your eyes. Each person has their filters, their traumas, their own limitations. Expecting them to fully understand who you are is like expecting them to perfectly translate a language they never learned. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of a person lies in their own judgment, not in the opinion of others." You do not need to be understood to be valid. You do not need to be approved to be worthy. Your truth does not need an audience. It needs your courage to live it. Stop spending your energy trying to make others believe what you know. Let them believe what they will. Your peace does not depend on their understanding. It depends on your fidelity to yourself. When you stop needing external validation for your inner reality, you become unshakable. You are no longer hostage to their confusion. You are anchored in your own clarity, and that is the ultimate freedom.